Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl, Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. Also an ISO certification registration company. Telephone number 203-556-1493 or Daryl, Daryl, TQRS at yahoo.com. I've told you about my background being involved with over 40 plus years in quality and manufacturing quality in aerospace, medical implants, printing and plastic distribution, where we dealt with just about every industry under the sun. We have a very special guest, but this video is special in the way that we're going to show Mr. Ed Pierson. We also have an interview, a very brief interview from Mr. David Calhoun, the CEO of Boeing. We sent a CV in to David Calhoun and some of the other managers that we are offering our services, my team and I offering Boeing our services, because it appears that they're taking the same old song and dance people and just changing their titles along the way. So basically, the culture of Boeing has not changed. And this video today is about former Boeing 737 program senior manager Ed Pierson says Boeing company is worse now than before two MAX crashes. And mark my word, if they don't give us a call, you're going to have another plane go down, probably, maybe, could be, possibly. And it's not a Jackie Mason comedy hour either. It's a serious business. I have a lot of people out there who say to me, well, Daryl, there are more people get killed in car accidents than plane crashes. But just listen, when one of those things go down, it's an 80-20 rule, meaning that 80% of the people on that board, that plane, are going to get killed. Okay? 20% may live. But make matters worse, is one of those go down, 100 to 300 people are going to be dead just like that, or seriously injured. But you can't have people, like, Thomas Paine said, when speaking the truth, it's many times like administering medication to the dead. So we have Mr. Ed Pierson here. Thank you, Ed, for coming in. We want you to sit down first, and we want to play this interview after the Alaskan airline popped the cork, so to speak. I want you to listen to Mr. David Calhoun. He said our regulator, the FAA, is coming out with procedures. Well, let me just say this, Ed. When you were on board, I think there, started in 2009 when the FAA came in and gave regulatory authority to Boeing. That means that they can accept, ship out. They don't have to tell the FAA about putting MCAS system in, forgetting rivets, putting rivets in. They don't have to tell them because they are the FAA. And we're going to show that to you. We're also going to show you a disgusting procedure for suppliers put out in 2002, where you have Boeing, who sits on the board of the American National Standards Institute and the American National Crediting Board. And they also push that accreditation body that they sit on their supplier portal. They also pushed it on their supplier bulletin. You will see that where it says, Ed, it states that if you send us an AS9100 certificate accredited by ANSI/ANAP, then we don't have to come to your facilities to inspect it. Isn't that nice? It's a tender moment. And here we go, Ed. First, let me just play David Calhoun's interview. Okay.
To speculate, but I will say this: the work that our regulator, in this case the FAA, has been doing to inspect the situation and create a procedure and a protocol for the airlines to go out and inspect each and every one of the airplanes, 100% of them, and make certain that the work that our regulator, in this case the FAA,
the work of our regulator. We're going to try to go into this quick and try to get this done as painless as possible. The rest of the data, Ed, you want to find down below this video in the description. You have the American National Standards Institute, which is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation that has federal agencies and corporations on board, and they've been around for over 100 years. You have the American National Standards Institute, which sits, American National Crediting Board, which sits on the American National Standards Institute board. During the time they were sitting at the time of criticality was between 2015 and 2021, where a communist Chinese national had taken over the International Accreditation Forum. We're coming up to this very soon. We're coming up to it right now, coming up on the next placards. What the IAF is, Ed, is a repository for both national and international accreditation bodies. That's one thing. The next thing is ANSI and ANAP are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation in Australia. They are underwriters. So that means if the door pops off, there's a quality issue going on, systematic and also product. That means that they take over. At one time, ANSI ANAP said, nope, we only certify the system. So the liability is really not on their shoulders. Now that they are underwriters, they take full legal responsibility. The only problem is that Boeing doesn't have the balls enough that they were born with because they use them as the accreditation body. And that to me is appalling. That to me is fostering quality rejects and escapes. And here it is. This is an actual federal contract, a standard operating work order. During this time, the IAF was being watched over by a communist Chinese national, Zhao Zhenwu, 2015 to 21. And you can look this up and find out that, yes, it states right over here that ANSI ANAP are underwriters for the IAF. Nice. In 2018, Ed, the American National Standards Institute took over complete control of the American National Accreditation Board. At that time, they were also sitting on the IAF. In 2013, Ed, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality, which at the time owned ANAP 50%. Conversely, ANSI owned ANAP 50%, the American National Standards Institute. So right now, between 2015 and 21, they sat there. In 2016, Ed, Mr. Randy Doty, who was a former vice president of ANAP, but still the principal on the IAF tax form, which meant he still had control, he invited me to join, our company to join either IAF or ANAP or both. And how in good conscience could we join when you had a communist Chinese national, Zhao Zhenwu, who's watching over the IF, where ANSI and ANAP sit as well, and he is mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take our data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. Do you see where it's going, Ed? And one of the worst things to do is you have both Iran and Pakistan on there. And Boeing says on their supplier portal must be ANSI, ANAP, or international equivalent, and the international equivalent could be Iran or Pakistan. Most recently, Iran had gotten their certificate for the IAF taken away. You think because of lack of quality? No, a lack of payment. It's not quality when it comes to these jokers. So that's it. We're going to continue on. Now we come up to Boeing. Boeing, okay? Boeing sits on ANSI's board, right over by the accreditation body that they stick down suppliers' throats. Right over by the same accreditation body that they said to their suppliers in 2002, hey, look, if you got an ANSI ANAP accredited certification, just send it in to us, send us your parts, we don't have to even inspect it anymore. I'm sure they did sample inspection. If they had, let's say, 10 suppliers, hypothetically, maybe they looked at 3. Maybe. The way their quality is, I don't think they looked at anything. But here's Boeing. Here's the actual website, webpage. If you look at it today, it's still the same. It doesn't, it says actually ANSI ASQ National Accrediting Board, and it's been that way since 2018 when they became one company basically, but they're two individuals but under one roof. ANSI took over complete control over ANAP. But yes, international equivalent, ANSI, ANAP, National Accrediting Board, or international equivalent. This is the actual, Ed, supplier bulletin that states that if it goes like this, on-site Boeing survey/audit of supplier's quality system if need be. It's going to be down below the whole document. You can read it, you can go through it and take a look at it. This is no oversight whatsoever. Boeing gave up oversight to a piece of paper because they sit on the board of ANSI ANAP. They sit on the board of ANAP that could grant, suspend, and withdraw certification of of registration companies. They can kick them out of their suppliers and kick them out of their own company. This is the kicker, though, Ed. In 2009, the FAA increased the authority of Boeing Commercial Airplane Division to self-certify its own aircraft. So when the lawyers say of Ethiopian Air and also Malaysian Air, and my heart goes out to the families of the victims, When they say that Boeing never told the FAA about the MCAS system, under Senate subcommittee hearings you heard that. Why didn't Boeing tell us about the MCAS system? Because none of those guys have good researchers, our senators and congressmen. I think they're fed these questions at every kind of inquisition that they do. You take a look at Christopher Wray, for example, the director of the FBI. Every time he gets inquisitioned, he says we must maintain vigilance over China, as China's a detriment to society. Yet the FBI sits on ANSI's board, right over by ANAB, and they sat there between 2015 and 21 when China was there, and they got their asses handed to them by hacking and all the rest of that. So you have Christopher Wray who goes in there. He's supposed to be our intelligence head of our intelligence. Well, let me tell you something. He's far from it if he doesn't know that China had watched over him between 2015 and 21. Furthermore, here goes the kicker for the MCAS system. The system allows Boeing employees to perform tasks on behalf of the FAA that include oversight of testing and product standards, along with certification of aircraft technologies and new aircraft designs. So that means for 22 years, Boeing gave up surveillance audits to their suppliers. 22 years, parts coming in. We don't have to go visit you. And for another 15 years, they were an FAA regulator. Sitting over by Boeing is, of course, the FAA. So let me ask you, Ed, if I may, can one regulator watch over another? Now here goes the kicker. During their time of being regulators of the FAA, they are the FAA, they were caught fudging documentation on their airliners. Ed, do you know anything about this? This is in 2017. I think you may have been on board then. So what was taking place there, Ed? We don't know. You also have the factor Department of Justice, FBI, DOT, FAA, all the rest of that sit on ANSI, ANAB's board. So Ed, we're going to play this again. I want you to listen to Mr. Calhoun talk about the regulator. I think it is very important for you to listen to this, and here it is. Hold on one second, and here we go.
Speculative, but I will say this: the work that our regulator, in this case the FAA, has been doing to inspect the situation and create a procedure and a protocol for the airlines to go out and inspect each and every one of the airplanes, 100% of them, and make certain that the work that our regulator, in this case the FAA,
the work of our regulator. They were regulators in 2009. And when he was on the board, does he know this? He must know it, because by Boeing being an FAA, that means that Mr. David Calhoun is an FAA administrator working in concert with the FAA in Washington, because he's a representative of the FAA by them being an FAA regulator, Ed. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS @yahoo.com. I thank you.